Hello everyone. Alright, what are we going to talk about today? Today, we're going to talk not about Pangea Earth, but I was just talking about frequencies the other day. Frequency, and applying that to the pole flip. What am I looking at right here is the question I want to know right now. And what am I looking at over here? I'm going to zoom out on this one. And I talked previously about how I thought how a lot of this is carved in. The rivers were carving in. This is a really interesting area. And when you scroll around here, and you notice some of these rivers, there's really odd frequencies that I see when I see some of these rivers, but also in some of these lakes up in here. There's some really cool features. Anyway, so the other day on this Michael Steinbacher video, I'm going to play this real quick because I cut him off and I feel bad. And this video, we're going to feature him a lot.
But it seems to be electrical. It seems to be filamentary. These, what I refer to as filaments, are so interesting. They remind me of places north of Las Vegas where I see similar looking mountains.
And I just wanted to play that so he could talk about that because I see some of these filaments too when I look at, this right here, but you see it in the mountain. Like, this is fascinating right here. Right in here. Now what we're looking at over in here, I'm going to zoom out. I'm on the other side of the northern region, but you see some of these filaments that come in. And this is in the lake. But going back to Michael Steinbacher, I didn't want to zoom out too far, but now that I have, okay, see this? This is kind of a pattern. And you zoom out, and this very distinctly, like a shock wave, and it's traveling through, and it's almost like this is Swiss cheese. Like, there's trying to wrap your head around it. Some of these things really don't make sense, but when you apply a concept of a square wave, you start to explain some of these more like rectangular shaped features where you got a bunch of, but you have more of a distinct rectangle. But to me, a lot of these rivers, they exhibit a frequency. You see like a very distinct line over here. But let me play Michael Steinbacher real quick on his video about the Potomac. But again, you see these filamentary. I meant to start it sooner.
Windwards to the west, as if the winds were coming tunnels through the mountains. You couldn't get through them. They held up the migration to the west. Daniel Boone had to go.
He's talking about how hard it was to get through some of these mountains, but how the rivers seem to carve in.
South into Tennessee to get through to Kentucky. These were major obstacles. You couldn't get wagons through. The ridges prevented travel. And the ridges are almost always on the east side, as if that's leeward. Windwards to the to the west, as if the winds were coming west to east. Anyway, we'll zoom out a little more perspective, and then zoom back in again. So here's Washington, D.C. down here, and there's the rivers up here. So it goes north, and then south, and west and south.
See, Washington, D.C. is a really fascinating area to me, too, but this band here, come back over here, zoom out, we're all the way up here. I can find this region pretty easily if I need to. While we're out here, he was talking about how he saw it down in Cape Town. He said north of Las Vegas. And see, these don't look as much filamentary until you get up in here. Zoom back out. You get a portion of that like distinct band sort of up here, but that's kind of what I was talking about with in terms of the sprites. You got one band here, you got another band here. Scroll up here to Denver. And there's this distinct line, this ridge. And it's coming in here. Zoom back out. There's another feature right around here. I believe it's this one. Yes. Zoom in. And there's actually a couple. How this kind of points this direction. But when you look at, and then it stops here, but zoom back out. And this feature right here kind of falls in line with this. Back over to here. And this kind of falls in line. But see again this like band, and all of this up here turns into Swiss cheese. Sort of. You get some really interesting effects. It's like, what the heck happened to cause some of these things? This one's pretty fascinating right here to me, because another video, this one I'm going back to Michael Steinbacher, and this one is two electrodes. They're recreating the Grand Canyon in a lab. This probably Billy Yelverton's experiment, I think. But you see these filamentary formations. Then you come over to the Earth, and you also see some of these. That's back over there in this. Then we're going to come back. Where were we? Yeah, right down in here. And you just try and make sense of this. Like, oh yeah, that's a good one. But obviously it drains out. But when you're looking at this, it's not like it's trying to come in here. It builds up a certain capacitance, and then it kind of like shoots out, and then this one shoots over. But you zoom in and just like looking at some of these lakes, it's hard to process, but you notice there's like smaller patterns. But like, look at the frequency on this river. Just for a sec. Like the way this dances, this is why I brought up plasma tubes. This is why I had this up, because over here, when you come
50 tour, and
you just play that for a second and watch how that dances and the frequencies that are involved, and then you come back over here to the Earth and you see something like that, come back over to Michael Steinbacher in his video, and he's talking about this. Then we come over to here, where we're in the Americas. And I meant to come back down here in the first place. But really, you see a lot of this where it looks like this was coming in and carving itself in from in here and kind of like fracturing this away. But this is kind of more where I see the filamentary structures. But where I really see there's another, it's almost like a pattern where these are branching off, but this jets out. And when you scroll up through some of these areas, not so much over there, maybe a little bit more over here. Like this looks like it's carving out, it's in this direction, this comes up here, this comes over, zoom in. Like what the heck is going on up here is the question that runs through my mind when I see some of this. Because it's very unusual. And you really get lost in some of these places just looking at it. Like a very round circle, and this jets in. Then you start noticing different patterns. And you come over here, and what the heck happened here? But you see these really weird patterns, and you get here to the shoreline, and it carries on in. And like this, very distinctly into here, and it branches over to here. And it jets out, and it shoots over. And there's like a frequency running through the land. Like this is a very distinct band that while these are being like, that's ghostly filament to me. That is a ghost-like filament, and it starts over on this side and it carries in and rushes over. Not as much in here though, as much, but when you see it like right here, then you start scrolling around. These are really fascinating islands. Some of these. Because it's hard to process. I'm going to have to do another video on this just because there's a lot going on here, and this definitely needs to be a 2 to 3, 4, however many parts it has to be. We'll try and figure this out.